Hi, I'm Madison Mary and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, please don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button down below. And without further ado, let's get into my January wrap up. So in the month of January, I read 14 books. Wow. The only thing is that 8 of those 14 were actually the entire Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn, and I will not be talking about them in this video. I will not be wrapping them up here because I have an entire dedicated vlog to reading all 8 books coming out in 2 weeks from today. There are like very minimal spoilers in the vlog, and I will warn you before any of the spoilers occur, but it was a complete and utter blast to read all 8 of them, and I'm so glad that I read them like back to back. I couldn't help myself. I had to read them back to back because I became literally obsessed with some of the books. I will admit, while there were a couple of 5 stars, there were some 3 and 2 stars within there too. So it is a very interesting series to read. And I do also want to mention that her series gets steamier as it goes on. Like, it starts off pretty mild in like the sexiness, and it's not until like towards the last 3 books that it like jacks it up. So don't go into it expecting the series to be like some of the present historical romances coming out today, which tend to have a lot more steamy content in them. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to get into the stats for all 14 books, and then I'll get into reviewing the other 6 that I read. Like I said, I read 14 books, 9 of them were ebooks and 5 of them were physical. We had 9 historical romances, 1 nonfiction, 1 contemporary, 1 romance, and 2 fantasy. 3 of them were YA, 1 of them was new adult, and the other 11 were adult. The page count is 6,248 pages read in January. Stellar, like amazing. I'm so proud of myself, like applause. So with the 6 books that I read that weren't Bridgerton, I'm going to start with my lowest rated and work up to my highest rated read. The lowest is a 3.75 and then the highest are obviously 5 stars. So my 3.75 star book was Queen of Empire by H.R. Moore. This is book 1 in the Relic trilogy. I was sent this to read and review from the author, which I'm very appreciative of. So this is classified as a fantasy romance, which I will admit it is, because the romance in this is very prominent. So I'm going to explain the magic system first, and then I'll explain what the plot is. So the magic system in this is the fact that there are 3 branches. We have mind, body, and spirit. Every citizen is proficient in one of these 3. And within these 3 branches, there are descendants. And the descendants are a descending bloodline from the original people who had this magic, and the head of each descendant family is the person who is one of the 3 governing bodies of the kingdom. And so we are following 3 different point of views in this book. We're following Anita, Marcus, and Alexander. Marcus is the son of the current ruling mind descendant. He's basically the mind prince. So when his dad dies, he will then take over and become the ruling descendant for the mind branch line. And then we follow Alexander, and his dad just died, who was the ruling spirit descendant. So now Alexander is about to become the ruling spirit descendant when this book begins. And then we have Anita, and she's just a citizen in Empire, and her proficiency is in body. Now within the first 10 to 15% of the book, you find out that the descendants have suddenly arrived in Empire, which is the city that Anita lives in. Now, this is very strange. You find out that the reason why they have come to Empire is because the current ruling body descendant, Christiana, is looking for a girl. Now, you can kind of think, wonder who that girl might be. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I wonder who that girl might be. Now, Christiana dies before she ends up finding that girl, and this then sets into motion a whole slew of events. It's very info dumpy. It is very detailed and very complex in the way that everything connects, and it can get very, very confusing if you do not pay attention. So it did actually take me a hot minute to read this book, just because I had to make sure I understand how everything was going on and was connected. But the events that are set in motion by Christiana's death is the fact that Marcus's dad is trying to find out who this girl is that she was looking for, because he's like, yeah, no, I gotta kill whoever this girl was, because this is going to ruin my own secret plans. Then Anita ends up getting entangled with Marcus and Alexander, and there ends up being a massive love triangle between the 3 of them. And then lastly, because Christiana died, everyone believes that now the prophecy has just been broken and that the entire kingdom is just going to end up in peril. So those are the three main things that are going on, and a big part of this is obviously the romance between the three characters, and I did actually really enjoy it. I was never sure who I was rooting for, and then it kind of became very, very clear quite quickly who I was rooting for, because I will give a trigger warning in here that there is mental abuse within a relationship, and it is quite heartbreaking to see that, because the mental abuse, the control, just the way that these two characters end up interacting as the relationship goes on just really went to show you how you can enter into a relationship with someone and think that everything's great, that they're the perfect person, that you're completely in love with them. But then as you start to see how controlling they are, the way that they start doing these different things, you start to realize that, oh, I still love this person, but maybe maybe this isn't safe for me. Maybe I can't do this. And I did end up getting quite invested in the different politics in this world, because I was quite curious to see how everything was going to kind of stack up and how everything was going to work itself out. It is confusing. This was a 3-star for a majority of the book, which is fine. Like 3 stars is like an average book for me, and it's a book that I did enjoy, but it does mean that it was kind of a struggle at certain points. So yeah. Next we have my 2 4-stars, the first of which is Into the Heartless Woods by Joanna Ruth Meyer. This is a gender-bent retelling of Beauty and the Beast. So in this world, the king is currently at war with the Witch Queen. Now the Witch Queen lives in the woods, and within her woods she has 8 tree siren daughters. And these tree sirens lure men and women and children to their deaths in order to then steal their souls to feed the forest and thus grow the forest. So people live in daily fear of being lured by the tree sirens and traversing near the forest. Then of course we have Owen Merrick, and his family lives right next to the forest. And this is just because they map the stars for the king. That is how they make their money. The problem is that one day Owen's little sister ends up being lured into the forest. And he's like, oh my god, like I can't let my little sister be surrendered to the forest, because he did lose his mum to the tree sirens in the forest. And so he ends up going into the forest to try and save his sister, and he actually ends up getting saved by one of the tree sirens, and it is their love story. Now it is a very, very, very sad love story. Like, for a majority of this book, I was like, this is just not gonna end well for the two of them. She's a tree siren. Now, I don't want you to imagine like some beautiful, beautiful girl. Like, no, she's literally a tree that looks like a girl. Like, she's a tree. Like, her skin, she's a tree. One of the aspects that I loved most about this was the fact that we do get the tree siren's POV, and from her POV, it is actually written like in verse. It is written in a poetry style, and I thought that was just so unique. It is one of the most beautiful books I have ever read, and I would actually say that if you are a fan of Strange the Dreamer, you should pick this up. It's not the same as Strange the Dreamer in any sense, but just the way that it is written, this lyrical style, and just the detail and the whole idea that there's like a bigger picture of everything. I think that if you're a fan of Strange Dreamer, you should check this out. And then my last 4-star read is A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem by Manda. This is a historical romance mystery, which is one of my favorite subgenres of historical romances. I don't know why, but I'm someone who just like, I adore when there are mysteries in my historical romances. I just think it's so much fun. So we're following Lady Catherine Bascombe. She is a widow, and when her husband passed away, she actually inherited his newspaper, which is strange. Like, women aren't supposed to be businesswomen in this era. Like, it's a weird thing. And it's even weirder that she actually is interested in crime and murder, and she decides to start a column within the newspaper talking about the murders that are occurring in England. And one of her articles ends up actually leading to the arrest of a murderer in London. And the detective inspector who was on the case is just like, he's pissed. He's pissed because he thinks that the person that she led to getting arrested isn't actually the murderer, and that now the real murderer is still on the loose, but no one's going to be looking for him because she influenced everyone's decision. So he doesn't like her. Then within like the next 5% of the book, she's involved in another murder. This time she like finds the body, and that's how she gets involved in it. And so he is then sent to her aid to like investigate, so that they're then forced to work together. And it is just, it's hilarious. It is hilarious because they clearly have this attraction to one another, but she has no desire to like remarry because she's very happy as a widow. She's happy with like the privileges that she now has and her freedom. But for him, he's just like, no, she's crazy. Like, why would I ever want to be involved with her? Like, no. So I do recommend this for anyone who likes mysteries and their historical romances. If you don't like mysteries, don't read this because the mystery aspect of this book is very prominent. So yes. Now let's move on to my 3 5-star reads, the first of which is We Keep the Dead Close. This is non-fiction. It follows the murder of Jane Harper, I think her name was, Jane Harper at Harvard. So she was an archaeology grad student. And what's really cool about this was the fact that our author, Becky Cooper, who became literally obsessed with Jane's case, as she was writing this book and just before it was about to be published, DNA evidence was found that then led to the arrest of the killer. And so she then had to go back in and rewrite parts of the book and kind of add to it to talk about this recent developments. And now it's 2 years later and the book was published just actually at the end of 2020. So it was really interesting. I do want to say that if you have, like if you are aware of the Jane Harper murder, like the Harvard archaeology murder, I don't think you would really enjoy the book because the whole point of reading it is that you're trying to figure out alongside Becky who killed Jane. You know, Becky is looking into these 3 really main suspects and you're there alongside her thinking, okay, like could it be this person? Like there are some things that say yes, some things that say no, like what could really end up happening? And then if you know actually how the story ends, if you know who the real killer is, it ruins everything. It ruins everything. Like there is some point to still reading this book, but it ruins the whole like anticipatory aspect of this book. It's more than just the murder of Jane Harper. It's actually a greater look at Harvard and also archaeology because Jane was an archaeology grad student and it's a look at how her time in the program, how sexist the program is, how sexist archaeology still is as a field. And it's a look at how at Harvard money is power, how you can keep things secret, how there's a don't ask, don't tell kind of mentality there. There's a look at how, you know, women, when things happen to them, it's the whole idea of, oh well. It's a really interesting just look at culture and society in general. So if you're looking for like a kind of a true crime podcast-esque book, I would definitely look into this because it feels like you're reading a podcast. It feels like Becky Cooper, the author, is talking you through her investigation of everything, and it was really an amazing experience. Now the last 2 books I'm super excited to talk to you about, the first of which is Bedazzled by Ryan LaSala. This is his sophomore novel and he just came out like 3 or 4 days ago talking about how he just got signed to do even more books coming out next year, and I'm just ecstatic. I adored his first book, Reverie, and his second book, Bedazzled, is even better, which is just like beautiful. I will say that if you read his first book, Reverie, and you didn't like the magical realism element of that, if you struggled with that aspect, you should still definitely 100% pick up this book because it is completely contemporary. So we're following Raffi and he is a cosplayer. He's actually kind of like a Twitch streamer / YouTuber in like the cosplay world, if you know what I mean. And what happens is when the book starts off, there is this massive cosplay competition coming up at this fictional version of Comic-Con, and he's really excited for it, except for the fact that when he gets there, he is actually in direct competition with his ex-boyfriend Luca. Now 1 year ago, Luca and Raffi met, they fell in love, everything was great, they were supposed to participate in the Comic-Con together, and then something happened and everything went to shit and now they don't even talk anymore. So we're following 2 different timelines. We're following present day with Raffi and Luca now currently competing against each other in the cosplay competition, but we're also following 13 months earlier when they first met and how they first fall in love and also how everything went down between them. It was really interesting because each chapter alternated between past and present, and it was fun seeing how they first met and how they quickly fell in love, but then also see, you know, within the next chapter that they're not speaking, that there's just something went so wrong between them. And you're so curious because it seems like they were so perfect for one another, so what went wrong? The reason why I absolutely adored this book, the reason why I had to 5-star it was just because Ryan LaSala's writing is one that I completely vibe with. I have never vibed with a contemporary author's writing quite like Ryan LaSala, and that is because his humor is just so on point with my own. I can't even. He makes jokes in this book and references to manga, anime, different fandoms. If you are like a comic fan, a manga fan, an anime fan, anything like that, like read this book because you will feel so seen in it and you will just laugh at all the jokes that are in this. It is hilarious. And also Ryan LaSala, like this is an own voice. It's like Ryan LaSala is a gay man himself, and so all the gay jokes he makes in this are just hilarious. And like I died. I died so many times. I have never laughed so much in a book like I did with this one. And then last but certainly not least is Shipped by Angie Hockman. This is an adult romance. Now it is on the low level of steam. There's not much that really happens between our two characters, but oh my god, this book is pitched as for fans of the hating game and also fans of the Unhoneymooners. I would say that is like the perfect way to explain this book. So we're following Henley Evans. She is currently a marketing manager at this cruise company. They're not like just a single cruise, like they run cruises like all over the world. There is about to be a promotion coming up for a director position. She's like, that's it. I need that, I'm gonna get it. And it seems obvious that it's going to go to her because she puts in the most work at the company. But her boss is hella sexist AF, and he's like, yeah, see, now, no, it's actually between you and Graham Crawford Collins, who is, to Henley, her absolute nemesis. She hates this man. She's like, he gets away with everything. He is favored because he's a man and he's only been at the company for half the amount of time that I've been there. And so she is pissed about this. And their boss is like, I'm gonna make this a fair competition between two of you. You're both gonna go on the Galapagos cruise. You're gonna suss it out. You're gonna see what's going on. And then I want you to come back and give me a digital marketing plan for it. I want you to give me a plan that tells me how we're going to increase sales. Whoever comes up with the best plan will get the promotion. So the two of them get sent on this cruise together, and it is just hilarious. It is so funny because literally the second she gets there, she gets motion sickness and she pukes, and he's just... Graham is an absolute nut, a cinnamon roll. Like, he is such a cinnamon roll, and Henley is just like... She's like a hellfire cat. She's like, yeah, no, like, I don't trust you. Like, you seem like you act like you're a nice guy, but I don't believe that for 1 second. Like, there's something going on up his sleeve. And he's just like, bro, I don't know what your issue is. He's like, but you know what? If you have an issue with me, like, I'm not going to make your life any easier. And it is just such a cute, like, I don't want to call it hate to love, because while she has like this animosity and hate towards him, he doesn't give a second shit, and that's what aspect of it really reminds me of the hating game. But yeah, I loved it. I found myself smiling so much, and I was just like, oh my god, they're so cute together. Like, I ship them so heavily. But then what, like, the other aspect, like I said, her boss is super sexist, and so a larger part of this is the whole idea of her being in a company where she's not valued, where she does like 3 times the amount of work as some other people, and she's just like, she's a woman, end of story. Like, it doesn't mean anything. And that was so surprising to me because I did not know that this book was going to have so much more depth to it than just being an adult romance. I do also want to mention that there is a trigger warning in this for an abusive relationship. It's not to do with our main couple at all, but it is part of one of these side plots that goes on in this book. So if that is something that you are sensitive towards, do be aware of that. That is going to be it for this January wrap up. I really struggled with this wrap up. I don't know why, but it took me 3 times to film this because I really struggled with explaining some of these books. So I do hope that you did enjoy it. And if you did, please hit the like button down below. If you want to see more of me, please subscribe to my channel. And until next time, thanks a bunch. Bye.